Hi everyone, today let's talk about that CPI data. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. So inflation came in quite a bit hotter than expectations. It did step down a little bit to 2.4 from 2.5, but again, some trouble spots, not as much as we would have liked to see. And you can see that here, 2.5 was the previous read, 2.4 this month, but the expectation was 2.3, so not great. And then looking at the different sectors, eggs continue to be really hot there at 39%. Frozen non-carbonated drinks, juices and drinks here at 15.3. Butter also quite high. So food across the board pretty high. Away from home not too bad at 3.9, but still well above those two indicators. Energy was down overall, 6.8, but you can see electricity utility a little bit higher. Motor vehicle insurance still quite high there at 16.3% from a year ago. Very high number there. And then you can see quite a few other things: pet services, cigarettes, photography equipment at 10.7. And then looking at the numbers, you can see slight step up here on the core number, also not what we wanted to see. 3.2 to 3.3. And the last time we really saw it step up was here in February of 23, went from 5.5 to 5.6. Since then, it's either been flat or down, and this is the first kind of step up we've seen in a while. The headline number continues to trend lower. Usually these kind of move together here. You can see headline number was flat, core number continued to drift towards it. So you would expect these to kind of drift together eventually. But I do think that core number spooked markets here a little bit, which is partly why we saw a little bit of a down day today. Energy prices down overall. Like to see that gas price continuing to drop 4% in September. Annual food inflation they're saying is tame, but honestly it's pretty aggressive. 1.3% from a year ago, plus all the numbers that we just talked about. And you can see egg prices 8% from August to September, huge number there. 40% since September of 23. Largely due to the avian flu breakout, so that's interesting, a little bit of a geopolitical type risk there. And then the month over month, you can see 0.2 every single month here for the last 3 in a row. And then the last piece to this puzzle, in my opinion, is housing services. Really haven't seen those fall in a while. They've been out of whack, waiting for these things to kind of come back in line. It's a very lagging indicator, and it's taking a longer time to recede, and I do think it will eventually, and once it comes into line, that should help overall inflation and bring down that core number. Looking at fear and greed, really no change here, 71 from 72. You can see still choppy action in here, just short of that extreme greed number. No change to momentum, strength, or breadth. Still seeing high numbers, just short of greed on momentum in my opinion. And then looking at put call ratio, this has been hovering here. It was trending up pretty consistent, and now it's kind of flattened out in here. That's kind of interesting. I think it will continue up eventually, but it is taking a breather. And then volatility, still staying elevated even with the price action, not really moving around a lot. So market volatility staying elevated, safe haven demand, still extreme greed, and then junk bonds hovering in neutral for 2 days in a row. And then looking at that economic calendar here, you can see that CPI data all hotter than expected, not what you want to see. 0.2 versus 0.1. 2.4 versus that 2.3 that we expected. But the big number there, 3.3 versus the 3.2 on that core number, not what we wanted at all. 30-year bond, 4.38. Again, pretty hot auction there. And then looking at Fed balance sheet, completely flat for the week. Interesting to see that. And then tomorrow we do have PPI. Based on the numbers we got today, you would expect this to come in a little bit hotter, but markets are probably already pricing that in to some degree. Don't want to see that confirmation though, and then Michigan data here in the afternoon, here at 10 o'clock. And then looking at max pain for tomorrow, it did step up a little bit to 569, so still very much lower than current price, about $7, but it did step up $2, so a little bit closer for tomorrow. Looking at that level, that's still 1.24% lower, much lower going into tomorrow's session. We'll see if that matters at all. Something to keep in mind though, if we do start to see markets roll to the downside, this is probably where they're going. And then for next week, you can see 8 days from now, 2.8%. So no reprieve here in 2 weeks from now, 8% lower. We'll see if those numbers matter, but definitely concerning here in the short term to see those max pain numbers continuing to drift to the downside. Moving over to the charts, starting off with the SPY, you can see we are still very much in this channel, hitting that upper bound again, inside candle, reversal style candle. Still bullish momentum, RSI just above the SMA, so neutral there. SMA is flat, so no real direction from today's candle. And then we can see we can still grind up here, still could push through this level. The high of the day was slightly lower than yesterday's high, but everything could resume here. It could go either direction. Like I said, indecision candle. And then looking at that support level continues to be relevant. Did touch it today, did find some support at 574.71. And you can see that here on the hourly chart, hit that upper trend line yesterday, consolidation, sideways choppy action, held support twice. You can see we're drifting up a little bit here in the after hours. Could just be a pullback in time, and then we're going to get the continuation back up to the trend, which is up at 578.34. Moving over to the 4-hour chart here for the SPY, you can see that 8 EMA continues to hold support at 575.94. Upper ATR band is now at 579.34. That would be your next price target. If this second ATR broke, which was at 577.26. So still looks like a pullback in time. ATR bands continuing to swing towards the upside. ATR trailing stop was flat for today at 570.65. Moving over to the NASDAQ, you can see we did get an inside candle just like the SPY, but based on this, I would still expect this to continue to swing here. The trend support is at 489.67. We did almost touch that level, but momentum bullish, RSI bullish. The momentum's not super great after the 2 up candles that we saw Tuesday into Wednesday. I would have liked to see that continuation candle, get the gap fill here, start to push towards these all-time highs for the NASDAQ, which is up around that 503 area. Didn't really get that strong push that I would have wanted to see, but inside candle here could be just a pullback in time, hit this trend, and then get the continuation up. Certainly a possibility. If this trend breaks, obviously there is some downside risk. That next trend support is down around 4% or so, down in the 470s area. That would also be in line very close to that 55 EMA, which is at 470.54. Then looking at the short time frames here, you can see sideways consolidation did throw some pretty low wicks, did hold support back here from the high on the Tuesday candles. At the end of the session, found support there and then rallied back up. Did eclipse yesterday's high just barely, held the 21, and now we're getting a slight continuation after hours. Would like to see that go. Either way, really no change to the structure. Everything continues to look bullish. And my next level is all the way up at 500. And as long as this 492 level holds, we're in good shape. I could have taken off my position here, but I watched it closely. We seem to be holding these levels in here, and I had the trend as support down here, so I ended up holding those positions, and it ended up being a good hold. Moving over to the Qs on the Tasty charts, you can see that upper ATR band is now at 496.63. Second ATR band, 493.94. That's your first resistance. You can see we were hitting that here. Found resistance there. 8 EMA still holding as support, 492.21. Want to see that continue to hold, want to see these bands continue to swing, need that continuation to push that upper band higher. Otherwise, this might be starting to show a little bit of a reversal similar to this. I don't think we're going to get a change in structure. I still think everything is bullish, but want to see that resumption tomorrow. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow, the Russell did push all the way down, hit my level 214.79, and then bounced really powerfully from there. So we got the gap down, fall, hit horizontal support, you can see my level, and then got the bounce right back to the trend. We're up a little bit more after hours. Want to see that continuation here. 218.13 is the level. This has been some really choppy price action. Looked like we were starting to round up. Was really wanting to see that continuation candle here today. That's not what we ended up getting off the back of that CPI data. Right now, this honestly looks pretty awful. Momentum is bearish. RSI is bearish. Looks like a trend retest. Potential for rejection there. But I did hold the position. I'm hoping for a little bit of continuation. We did close at the top of the candle, so there were some buyers coming in at that 55 and my level, but definitely watching this one pretty closely here. And you can see the Dow also slightly bearish candle, 0.09, really very little change. And we are stuck there at the RSI. You can see rejecting from that SMA, pushing a little bit lower. See if there's any continuation off of that. But right now, price continues to kind of hold in this zone between the trend and the level at 426.20. Moving over to CrowdStrike and SOFI. CrowdStrike having a massive day, 5.5%. Remember, it had this massive fall here from just under $400 all the way down to $200. And then since then, we've rallied back about 50% of that move right to my level here. 316.49 was the level. Really should have been looking for the break here at 288. Pushed right to the next one here. After a little bit of a fake out breakout, bull flag continuation here. Now we're at 316.49 at the level. You do have resistance here around the trend at 323.50. So maybe we get a little bit of a rejection from here, hold the level, and then get the continuation. Might want to be a little bit more patient on this one. Definitely looks overbought. The structure is a little bit mixed here. So you got the big breakdown. This could be arguably a retest and then look for a little bit more breakdown. The stock has a lot of good fundamentals behind it. They own the majority of the security sector when it comes to cybersecurity, so that's also interesting. You can also see volume coming in here today, 7.8 million, about 3 times the previous volume, so that's interesting. Something to watch here on CrowdStrike. And then SOFI, I've been seeing this in the comments. SOFI continuing its little run here, had a big up day, 7.15% on Friday last week. Inside candle, but since then we've had the continuation, trend resistance all the way up around $9.23. So based on that, should have a pretty decent run left in it. That's about 7.25% higher from here. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft, you can see Apple inside candle down 0.22. Momentum still bullish, RSI kind of neutralized here. Couldn't hit the level at 230.28, so still in the same trading range, really no change there. And then look at Microsoft falling a little bit. We did not end up getting that continuation here. Certainly could reverse after the test of the 413.36 level. But if it breaks through there, that's going to be very concerning. Got the touch, got the retest, need to see that continuation if it's going to do it. If it does, your price target's up around 426. If it breaks, down around 394. The other thing to mention here is the RSI continues to downtrend, RSI trending a little bit lower. Still might see this reverse up, touch the level, and then reject from there. But again, could go either way, watching this one pretty closely. Moving over to Tesla and NVIDIA. Tesla did exactly what we thought it was going to do. Finally broke this level here. Got a touch of my level at 232.57. Low of day was 232.34. So we got the touch, hit the initial price target. Now we'll see what happens. Is it going to continue lower and touch it once again? Or is this a huge wick rejection showing that buyers are stepping in at this level and we're going to get the reversal back up to 255.44? This is in the middle of the range, so it could absolutely go in either direction, especially after that touch to the downside. But short term, I would say this is still a little bit bearish for me. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish. Did see a little bit of a volume spike on that candle reversal, so I could say maybe this short-term down move is a little bit done. But again, I would watch it closely. Either way you trade it, your stops are pretty far away. And then looking at NVIDIA, did get the continuation here, 1.63% after the up move. Failed a little bit yesterday. Trend resistance is still the price target up around 139.50 or potentially the all-time highs there at 140.76. Momentum bullish, RSI still bullish. Moving over to Amazon and Google. Amazon gapped up and dojied here, 0.8. A little bit of a wide candle, but we're rejecting off that 21 EMA. This is one of my favorite setups. If it does happen, you can see we've gotten the test. The 21 EMA rejection is what I'm looking for. If it does it, this is going to move pretty aggressively to the downside, in my opinion. That level is 187.27 right now. So we got the initial test. Be watching this one closely here tomorrow. Again, if this breaks down and fills the gap, I think this is going to go. The next move to the downside would be 181.41 is your initial price target. Below that, you got the 55 EMA, 179.60, and then the 200 below that, 177.59. So a couple of levels where you could find some support, but again, could be a good setup. Momentum says this could break through. RSI says it could reject from there. A breakdown from that SMA could be interesting. Again, I like these kinds of setups, something to watch there on Amazon. And then looking at Google here, came up just short of the level, 161.59. Low of day was 161.64. We did touch it yesterday, so maybe it's finding a little bit of strength. This momentum indicator is absolutely terrible. You can see how it's rolling down super aggressively. Probably going to cross here tomorrow. If it does, markets should go with it. If 161.59 breaks, I would expect the 200 to go with it. Then you have some trend support here at 159.77. If this zone breaks, we're probably going to push down to the level here, 150.26, just like we did last time. So watching this area closely as well. I think both of these are in play for the next day or two of trading, potentially the Monday session of next week. Moving over to oil and gas and technology, you can see oil and gas got a good move, about 1% higher on the day. I did finally grab a position here. I think we're going to hit that 140.88 within the next day or two. Momentum's not really showing it, but RSI still looks good. We're getting the continuation. I think we'll at least get the gap fill to that Monday session. So something to watch for, 200. Also in play at 142.40. I think there's some move here. And then looking at technology, basically flat, down 6 cents. Momentum and RSI still bullish, still holding the trend here. So still in play, I think, here to push into tomorrow's session. It's up a smidgen after hours. Everything still looks okay despite the pullback in time that we're seeing across most major markets. Moving over to 20 and 50-day breadth, this is a little bit concerning, right? So we did get the continuation lower after that big fake out on the Wednesday. So we got the push. So we got the slight reversal, continuation, hit resistance, sell off. Honestly, I thought we would come to here and sell off around 64 on the 20-day, but right now we gapped down and fell. Not great. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish, so something to consider there. It's still holding in the zone. It's not lower than what we saw Monday, Tuesday, but that is not great. Breaking the level, continuing to sell there a little bit. 50-day looks a little better. Did fall, but did hold the level 68.66 doji candle after getting there, 3.62%. Momentum kind of mixed, RSI still selling. So there's definitely some warning signs in markets that we could see a potential break, but there's also some levels of support that could still hold. So we're still in that sideways choppy action. So honestly, I'd be patient and watch for those key levels. Moving over to the dollar, again, another mixed signal here. So we hit the price target, 102.98. That was the initial level here. After we saw the clean break of 102 and the 55, we were expecting that touch here. Sure enough, we did get that touch. Overthrew it, almost hit the trend, just a little bit off. You might argue that's a touch. Hard to say really, but the interesting thing here for me is the doji candle, completely flat after getting the touch. So a slight rejection from here, you can see it there. Also momentum, bearish, RSI bearish here on the hourly. And now you can see momentum stepping down. Is this going to follow through? If it does, that could give equities a little bit of strength. Dollar selling is typically good for equities and good for bonds. So if this dollar rally is done, at least in the short term, we see a pullback maybe all the way down to the 21 EMA, down at 101.3. That could be interesting and that could be slightly bullish for markets. So again, another potential for a mixed signal, dollar at resistance. Moving over to JNK and TLT, you can see both of these hitting some critical levels. JNK just barely touching that 55 EMA. Low of day was 96.41. 55 EMA, 96.41. Touched it to the penny. Momentum stepping towards bullish. RSI still a little bit bearish, but it's holding support. If it's going to swing, it seems like it's going to do it here. Definitely an interesting zone. Could rally up, hit the 21, and then reject from there. That would be interesting. And then looking at TLT, we do have the 144 EMA sitting right there at the highly traded zone. That is at 93.90, catching a little bit of a bounce from there. Momentum stepping to bullish. RSI super oversold there at a 28.39, so maybe this is an interesting play. Look for TLT to push it back up to 96.50. Could be interesting. Good volume as well, 53 million versus the previous day was 35 million. So seems like a bottoming tail. Doesn't mean it's going to reverse immediately, but if it does find some support, especially at the highs here from June and July, that would be an interesting zone. Start to see a little bit of a rally up. This is still a short-term downtrend. You can see 9, 21, 55, well below all those EMAs, but it just seems really extended at this point, especially with that RSI number. Moving over to the VIX. Did not move really at all. Positive 0.07, still at the trend. Waiting to see what happens. If it breaks down, more bullishness. If it holds from here, more bearishness for equities. Right now, the RSI is holding up. Momentum is falling slightly, holding the trend. So a couple of mixed signals. But as long as the trend holds, this should potentially spike from there and then look for a break of that 2250 level. And then we'll see what happens after that. Moving over to my accounts, it says I'm up to 135. I'm not really sure that that's true. That might be accounting for some of this after hours move that we're seeing on the Qs. Or maybe it's flat. Looks actually a little bit flat there after hours. So maybe it's accounting for some of that. We'll see. Either way, made a little bit of money on the day. 217 for tomorrow on the calls for 87 cents. Rolled these down, managed to stay positive on the day somehow, so that worked out well, despite being down 90 cents on the day. And then looking at XOP, grabbed a position here at 138. A little bit conservative. Only 1 day to expiration on that. Should be in good shape. $25 profit already. Have another $55 left in it. And then looking at the Qs, didn't change my position here at all. Still deep in the money at 486. Made some money on the call position. Made some money on the actual shares for the day. It was flat enough where I made money on both. So still in good position in both cases. Watching this IWM pretty closely and looking for that move higher on XOP. Let me know down in the comment section what you think of the inflation data. Is it going to put a kink in the Fed's plan? Is it going to push markets lower if we don't get those cuts? Let me know. Otherwise, like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.